Hey guys, I wanted to get a video to you this weekend reviewing what we covered in class on Friday. And I apologize for the lighting. I know it's not very bright, but I don't have any better light up here. I'm actually in my sewing loft at home, and the lighting is great here in person, but on camera it's kind of, there's glares and shadows and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you'll still be able to see well enough to follow through with it or follow along with this. But what I have right now is pieces E and F already attached. I went ahead and did that before I started this video, okay? And I pressed the seam open. So that's your first step. All right, so what we're gonna do is we are going to go ahead and pin G to the top edge of this unit. So we're gonna flip it over. Remember, we want right sides together. And I'm actually going to turn it in this direction so I can pin. Well, maybe I'll turn it this way. I know all of you are right-handed, so I'll keep with that right-handed perspective. Okay, so as we're pinning, we want to make sure that our edges going on this side stay in line with one another. You do not want one of your edges to be misaligned, meaning we don't want this edge pulling away from the other. We do not want to see any of this fabric that's on the under layer there. So as I'm pinning, I'm making sure those edges are together evenly. And again, just walking those up together. You may hear my Labrador Retriever breathing or whimpering, because he does whimper if I do not give him attention when he demands it. But he's sitting here beside me, so I'm not sure how much the video picks up as far as noise. Okay, so now I have this pinned and we are ready to go sew our 1/4 inch seam along this side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the camera around. I'm going to try to do it slowly so that it's not blurry, you're not getting dizzy. But here we go, we're going for a ride. We're going to ride over here to the sewing machine. Okay, so I'm going to lower you guys down just a little bit, maybe tilt you up a little bit, so that you have a good view of the machine. I'm actually using my Janome Skyline tonight, so this might look a little different than the brother. Okay, I have my 1/4 inch foot on my machine. Remember, if you need to switch your foot, if you forgot how to do that, and let's say you're switching that out, you're just gonna push that little button that's on the back of this bar here. There's a button, I don't know if you see my finger back here. Push that button in, it's going to drop off your foot, whatever foot you already have on your machine. Then you're gonna take your quilting foot that looks like this. This little bar right here, this little metal bar, is going to line up underneath this bracket. So just put that in place. Use your presser foot lever to lower that down until it clicks in place and picks up your presser foot. It takes a little bit of arranging, to get it lined up just right, but that's how you switch out the foot. You should have a piece of washi tape that's lined up with the front right side of the quilting foot here, not this larger end back here, but the more narrow end at the front. So we're going to go ahead and get in line here, and we're going to line up with our tape. We're starting the top of our fabric directly under the needle, and we can go ahead and lower our presser foot, lower your needle, and we're ready to sew. I'm going to take that pin out. As I'm sewing, my eyes are focused on my guide, my sewing guide, my tape, and I'm trying to steer so that I stay even with the edge of the tape. When you arrive at a straight pin, It's best to take that out. Technically, when you do perpendicular pinning, like what we're doing here, the needle will ride over the straight pin, but sometimes it will hit it just the right way or just the wrong way, and it will snap your sewing machine needle. So, you may want to take those out. Go ahead and sew all the way to the end, then lift your needle and lift your presser foot, and we will cut that off. And here we have it, our 1/4 inch seam all the way across there. Okay, and now it's time to press. We're going to first press by setting in our stitches, and then we are going to press our seams open. So here we go for another ride. I'm just simply going to spin around over to the ironing board. So we're just spinning, whoops. And we're going to go all the way over to the ironing board. Okay, we'll line up right there. And what I want to talk about first is the need for setting in your stitch. So, and this is my fabric fraying. I had cut these pieces a while back, so they have had plenty of time to fray. But if you look at the edge of this, I just want you to see how it's a little wavy, a little waffly there. And that is just from the tension that is taken up with our stitches when we're sewing. So it creates little tension and creates that kind of wavy pattern. So that's why we want to set in our stitch by simply pressing over it. So we're doing just like that. And then we're going to, let me show you first. See how much flatter that is? So that's why that step is so important. And then we're going to lay our pieces open. I should probably trim this off real quick because that's gonna annoy me. Let me do that real quick. Okay, so remember, you have the choice if you want to press to one side. And if you do press to one side, make sure you press to the dark side. So in this situation, we would press to this one. Or you want to press your seams open. Pressing open obviously is going to be a little more time consuming because you have to take the time to actually, you know, get between those two layers. But it is worth it. It's going to help your quilt blocks lay much flatter, and your, you know, basically your entire quilt top will lay much flatter. So just like that. I've realized I cannot watch what's going on the camera. I have to stay focused on what I'm actually doing in order for this to work. All right, so I'm just spritzing that lightly with the best press. And when you spritz it, don't hold it too close. You want to be about, which it's out of the view of the camera, but you want to be about 12 inches away. You want it to kind of shower over the entire, you know, to spray over the entire piece. If you hold it too close, it's going to be very concentrated in just one area. And then after you spritz it, you're ready to just press that. And that starch really helps to get this nice and crisp. Okay. I like to flip mine over. You could totally just stop at that point if you wanted to. But I like to flip mine over, and I like to iron both sides. Like, I like to actually use the starch on both sides because I like it to be very crisp. I'm trying to get you guys a good view there. So I'm going to spritz it one more time. Iron that. Make sure when you flip it, though, that your seam allowances stay open. One thing to be a little mindful of. Okay, so just like that, and just iron it until it is dry, I guess you could say, until that starch has dried. And there you have it, nice and crisp block. And the spray starch is going to really help as you continue to build your block. It's going to really help with the handling of it as you're feeding it, steering it through the machine, it's going to give you something to work with instead of your fabric being, you know, very flimsy or kind of giving and stretching a little bit here and there. The spray starch really does help to give it that crispness that is needed in order to make it a little bit easier. So we're going to the cutting mat at this point, and I'm just going to swing around to the cutting mat right here. And let's see, right there, I'll try to keep you guys level. Okay, and now we're going to raise you guys up just a little bit like that. So now we need to square up our block, right? That's our last step for creating this unit. And I really hope you guys are starting to enjoy it. I know at first it's kind of overwhelming, but I hope that you're getting to a point where you can begin to enjoy the process. So we're ready to square up. What we're focused on is this seam. We want to measure from this seam over to the edge. We want that to be 1 3/4 inches. Okay, 1 3/4. So I'm going to find that on my ruler here, and that's going to be this dotted line right before I get to the 2-inch. I'm going to place that dotted line directly on top of my seam. Okay, so we'll kind of go in close there. So this line right here, I'm going to place on top of my seam. And once you feel like you have it in line, you're ready to trim off your extra. So we're going to use our rotary blade, line up, and cut. Okay, so we did that side. Now we're ready to rotate it. We're going to turn it like this because now we need to square up this side. All right. I like to choose a line on my mat, again, to keep it nice and square and straight. So I just kind of, this is the side we just cut. I choose, it could be any line you want it to be. And I just lay it there to line up so I know I'm staying straight there. Again, we're finding the 1 3/4 inch line. It's going to be stacked directly on top of this seam. Just like that. And once you feel like you have that in line, which I'm trying to look at the camera and the actual fabric, so give me just a second, I'm sorry. So once you feel like you have that in line, you are going to cut off your extra. Okay, so we're there, and I'm going to trim off here. Okay, and lift. And then hold this up a little bit for you to see. And the last thing we need to do is trim the two sides, the two remaining sides, okay? What we're gonna do is we're going to take our ruler, take our square, and this unit at this point should measure 6 1/4. So sometimes we may have a little bit extra that we need to trim off in order to keep it square. So what we're going to do is find our 6 1/4 inch both vertically and horizontally on our rulers. We're going to line up that 6 1/4 inch corner here that's on our ruler with the corner here on our unit. So we're going to lay it down, 6 1/4. Match up our sides there. So I have 6 1/4 in line with the edge of my fabric vertically and in line horizontally. I'm going to hold it down. I'm actually going to stand up to cut this, so give me just a second here. And we're going to trim on this side and also this side. And now we have our square unit. Okay, so all of our corners, all of our edges are square and ready for the next step, which is what we're going to do next week. But this is our homework for this week. We want to repeat this. If you're making the quilt size, you're going to do this 16 times. If you're making the lap size, you're going to do this 48 times. Yes, 48. So I don't know, try to, break it down into chunks. If you feel like you could do 4 a night, or if you feel like you could do 10 a night, whatever that is, I would just break it down into little chunks and see what you're able to get done. If you have any questions, of course, post it to our Facebook group or text me and I'm happy to walk you through it.